Hello, this is Hoa. Welcome back to my YouTube storytelling channel. I'm so happy to have you back here. I hope that you all have been well. I can't believe that summer is almost coming to an end. The children are starting back to school. I hope that all of them have a great year. Today I'm going to be reading to you chapter 5 of Tales of Consorts. So sit back, relax, and enjoy.
You're sleeping with someone new, and I'm in New York for the first time. I hate this weather, but I like the view. It makes me think of new beginnings. Here's to new beginnings. I can't sleep alone, 'cause if I do, I'll think of you. The nights are so long, wondering if you miss me too. I'm losing myself in the city sounds. For a while I'm fine, but as soon as it gets quiet.
Queen Leona. The truth had been revealed, and it proved I was right all along. Consort Angelina had been having an affair with someone else. The babe inside her womb was not of the king's blood. The question was, what would happen now? Talk was ceased around the servants, and anyone caught speaking of it would be punished. I woke alone and walked to Consort Angelina's chambers, where two guards were standing outside her door. When they saw me, they opened it, and I walked in, to find her sitting on her bed, with her knees up against her chest. As soon as she saw me, she stood up, and gone from her face was the woman I had always known. "My queen," she whispered, "your presence here means but one thing." "And what is that?" I asked. "To ridicule me of my unfaithful ways, I am sure." I smiled. "Your thoughts are exactly on point. But today I am not here to do such an act. I would like to speak to you gently and get to an understanding of the reasons for your actions." I sat down and she fell to her knees. "Tell me, who is the father?" "You told the king it was a servant, but I know you much too well. You would never let the likes of a servant touch you, much less spill his seed inside you. Perhaps you can fool his majesty, but you cannot fool me." She lowered her face. "I know not what you speak, my queen. I have told the truth to the king, and today the same truth shall be told to you." "Lies!" I yelled. "You dare to ask me to believe such a tale? The years I have known you, you would not even glance upon a servant, much less lay with one. The punishment you have been given is too simple." She looked up at me and smiled. "Does it make your heart beat with jealousy, my queen, that the king still will not behead me from these crimes? I know that you have wanted me dead, but yet I stand here, breathing, and it sends your heart into a hatred state, does it not? His Majesty may not love me the way he does you, but he still holds me in a high place, somewhere you cannot reach." I shook my head in disbelief. "You're facing a death sentence, and yet all you can talk about is hate and lies. Unlike you, I have never wished death upon you, but you have wished it upon me. You seek my throne every day, and had it not been the babe in your womb, you would have fought to sit in it now." I did not expect her to fly at me the way she did. She grabbed me, staining my dress with her hands. As her eyes flew wide open, a stench of hate came from her. "The throne belongs to me. What have you that the king cannot let go? Your beauty? It cannot be, for I match it so. Your wit? No, because I'm smarter than you in ways you do not even know. You are just a simple woman who cannot even hold a candle to me, yet you are loved and honored everywhere in this kingdom. If I had it my way, I would have gutted you at every chance." She released me, and I stumbled backward, shocked at her words. She walked to sit down and then turned to glare at me. "Hold on to your ring, my queen. It will be ending shortly." I smiled as I walked to her. "And yours is already done. The executioner has been sought out. I advise you to prepare your last days.
You're sleeping with someone new, and I'm in New York for the first time. I hate this.
Rumors were going around the palace walls like flies to honey. No one knew who the father of Consort Angelina's child was, and she was sticking to her story that it was a servant. The guards had been on high alert, and aside from the king and I, no one had entered her chambers. That night, I was bathing in rose water when Penny ushered in with a pale face and shivering hands. I rose out of the water and she quickly wrapped a towel around me before she told me that she had seen Sullivan enter Consort Angelina's chambers just shortly before coming. Get me dressed, I said urgently. I was standing by the entrance to Consort Angelina's quarters when Solomon emerged from the hallway. As soon as I said his name, he turned, and his face turned ash gray. He lowered himself to the ground as he greeted me. My queen, what duty do you require of me? He asked. What duty do you have to be here at this hour of the night? I asked. He looked up at me, and his eyes told me the truth. I could not believe it, and I stumbled as he stood up. He reached for me, and his hand stained my gown, leaving the mark of his thumbprint. My queen, he said with deep regret, I have made a grave mistake. I turned to go, and he quickly walked to stop me. My queen, I ask a boon. My heart fluttered with the pain of betrayal. How could you, my lord? Out of all the people in the kingdom, the king trusts you the most. He would give his life for you. You dare to betray him this way. He dropped to his knees again. My queen, let this talk die between you and I tonight. If the king hears of it, blood may be spilt within these palace walls. I shook my head, unable to focus, as I stepped away from him. He noticed my actions, and he reached out to stop me when his fingers smeared the fabric of my gown. Immediately he pulled back, his face a torn expression of guilt and fear. I turned away as tears filled my eyes, the betrayal gutting me alive as I tried to gather myself to walk away. I could not, and I ended up sobbing as I hugged myself. My lord, I have thought of many words to say to the man who had given his seed to Consort Angelina. Inside my mind, they'd linger and live like the very breath of me. But tonight, you have managed to destroy the image I hold of you in my mind. His eyes widened, and he shook his head, despair written on his face as he steadied his hands. My queen, I can take the disappointment from anyone but you. Please take back your words. They are like a knife to my soul. Then why did you insult your king in such a way? Sullivan shut his eyes, and he looked away. He let out a few deep breaths. I cannot speak of the truth of how I feel, my queen. If I were, I would be defying a nation. I wanted to laugh. Against a concubine. How would that be defying a nation? The betrayal you sought out tonight against the king is what will gut him, not how you slept in the same bed as his concubine. I do not think you understand the distance you have created between him and you. He grinned, but the gesture left his eyes bleak. You do not understand, my queen. The truth is much too heartbreaking to utter. So I dare to keep it hidden and pretend so no one knows. That you love a concubine? He shot his eyes to me. That I love you! I stumbled backward, my feet nearly going against my body. He reached out to steady me, but instead he tore a piece of my gown. Fear and shock entered me at the same time as I backed away from him. He stared at me with gentle eyes, eyes that the king had trusted since the beginning of time. Now those eyes were staring at me with desires that were not meant to be formed. I did not understand. How did I miss this? I turned away, my heart aching and my hands shaking. Let this talk die tonight, I whispered. What of how you look? He asked. There was no hiding this, and I had to come up with an explanation. The king would be coming to my chambers tonight. Perhaps I could change quickly before he arrived. I searched my mind for an option until I heard the guards greet the king. and both Sullivan and I exchanged glances. He dropped to his knees. My queen, tonight, if I am to die, I die with the truth that you have been the woman I have loved from the moment I set eyes on you when you entered the palace walls. No woman on earth shall ever satisfy my desires, and no woman shall ever walk beside me if it is not you. If tonight the king takes my life, I shall gladly give it for the sake of having touched you once. Are you mad? He continued to stay on his knees when the king emerged into sight, and his eyes fell on my torn gown and the fingerprints on my shoulders. Then his eyes gazed to Sullivan, who was on his knees. The print of the material had stained his fingers, and I watched as the king's eyes turned dark. Sullivan, he said with a threatening tone, speak. Sullivan looked up with sad eyes. Your Majesty, I fell, I said as I reached up to touch his arm. I fell, and Lord Sullivan had to go against protocol to save me. If not, I would have broken my ankle. My queen, you need not explain for me, Sullivan whispered. The king smiled at me and touched my chin. Are you hurt? Shaking my head, I replied, No, your Majesty, I owe thanks to Lord Sullivan. King Helion nodded, and he reached out to bring Sullivan to his feet. Then he turned to me and said, Return to your chambers and wait for me. Yes, your Majesty, I said as I turned and walked out.
I know you've been hurt, I know that you're trying. The boss is complaining, your phone's always ringing. Outside there's the cold wind, inside the monotony. Baby, we need an exit from this. Honey, we need that sweet release. I know it will feel them, the electric feelings. You and me all night, yeah, be alright.
The world around me was jolted out of normalcy, and I felt as if I had been living in a world made up of lies. Sullivan, in love with me. I shut my eyes and felt the exhaustion deep inside my soul. For years, I had been trying to keep up with the palace rules and limitations, and yet the one man whom my husband trusted the most desired me in secrecy. He had kept his heart in a lock, for I had never thought or seen any actions to determine otherwise. Now, I would have to learn how to watch myself around him. The door opened, and King Helion walked in, a dark glare in his eyes as he closed the door. I had not changed, and he walked to me, bringing me to a standing position. His eyes fell to the prints of Sullivan's fingers on my gown, and then he locked gazes with me. You need not lie for him, he whispered. I did not lie, I said. What was said was the truth. He smiled, and he turned away. Sullivan knows the rules when it comes to you. He would never touch you, even if it meant you would harm yourself. Every single man in this kingdom has been instructed to remain distant of you. I knew the rules. He had set them in place when I became his queen. I understand, Your Majesty. I have never forgotten. Then why did you stand for him when he was at fault for forgetting his place? He began walking toward me, and I backed up until the wall came behind me. I had nowhere to run, and he put his hands up around me, holding me in. The stare he gave me was enough to make any man fall to his knees and cry for help. Your Majesty, I whispered, what are you suggesting? King Helion smiled, and he touched my chin. You know how jealous I can become. No one touches my woman. It was not intentional. No? He asked as he cocked his head. You need not stand up for him. He admitted fault. I gasped as he turned away from me. Your Majesty, what are you going to do? He turned around to face me, and his eyes grew dark, scaring me. I had never faced him this way. This was a man on the battlefield who took lives, not the man who gave me pleasure in bed. He frightened me, and I tried to steady my breathing. I trusted him, King Helion said. How do I continue to give a man who broke my trust a place beside me? Can you tell me, my queen? Can you explain to me how I can continue to hold that light for him? I am uncertain how. My king, I said while my voice trembled, I understand your anger, but Lord Sullivan does not deserve to perish just for mistakes such as this. You cannot hold that as a crime. Why are you protecting him? I shook my head. I am not. Are you not? Every word I say, you react with another to keep him as an upstanding man. Is this not a way to protect him? Perhaps the question I should ask is, how long have you desired him? I turned away, my head spinning. I have never desired him, my king. He walked to me and gripped my shoulders. I do not know how I have missed the temptations he has held for you. Perhaps I trusted so easily his lying words that they blinded me. But I gave that man my entire faith that he would never go against me. And tonight, in the worst way, he has destroyed everything I gifted him to hold. And what of you, my queen? Have you ever lain with him? Have you ever given him the body I so cherish and protect? I sobbed. What do you think, my king? Do you think so low of me that you would dare to ask me that question? Have you not known me at all? I have handed you my youth, my beauty, my everything from the start. And your heart? He asked. Is that given to me too? Or is that reserved for him? The pain exploded in me and I sobbed, my heart breaking into pieces, the very breath in me becoming weak as I reached up and touched his face. My king, I have never seen another man since I became yours, in name, in body, in life. Perhaps from the beginning I had not given you my heart, for fear that I was afraid you would not see me as a compatible partner in life. But after I came to know you and to understand you, my heart became yours. I reached to touch him, but he held my hand away. Just now, you were protecting Sullivan. Why? He is the man you trust, and in anger you are looking to punish someone. I cannot let you hand a verdict in anger. You will regret it when your eyes are clear. Sullivan is your right-hand man. I do not want you to hate yourself. He laughed and let my hand go. He turned away from me and lowered his head. You have never protected me the way you did him. Tonight, hearing your lips utter those words, it carved a hole in my heart. He turned around to look at me, and I saw tears shimmering in his eyes. My queen, I am not afraid of war, of blood, of sword or arrow. But when I think of you, every part of me crumbles. Tell me, how am I supposed to be a king when my weakness is used against me every way? He pulled me to him and kissed me deeply. My dear queen, every part of me lives and beats with life because I have you standing here with me. But the very thought of losing you has me crippled with a fear I cannot let go of. I took his hand and held them together. My king, perhaps I have not been loud enough in the love I have for you. I have given you doubt in everything, and while you fight and bleed for me, I have silently wished for your well-being. I no longer wish to be your weakness, my king. I desire to be your strength. Will you allow me to? My queen, my every waking moment, I have yearned to hear those words from your lips. I have waited patiently for this day, and 3 decades later, I finally hear them. I am beyond knowing how to feel. Today, I want you to be my strength, forever my strength. Thank you for tuning in. Chapter 6 will be out shortly.